I mean, let's start with the good lah. The game itself actually made US $24 million in its first 2 weeks. However, I did a bit of research, or like, by comparison, Diablo 3, which came out in 2012 or 13, 2012, actually made US 200 million in its first 24 hours. So yeah, not really a huge leap when you think about it. And if we're talking about money, there are actually a bunch of streamers like Quinn Rex who are spending an insane amount of money, like US 6,000 on a game itself through Elder Rifts and microtransactions and cosmetics, and not being able to get 5-star gems they want from the randomness after they complete the dungeon and whatnot. So which means they're actually keeping the randomness of gachaing pretty real in Diablo Immortal. And to be honest, people like Quinn Rex are not really doing the game a huge favor. In fact, I mean, the money is already transferred. I mean, basically Blizzard has won for one. And then doing this sort of thing where you're spending ludicrous amounts of money will actually trigger addictive behavior in your viewers. And it's pretty irresponsible how the streamers are actually doing this. There's actually a number of them who are basically spending money, showcasing that, yes, you're not getting anything out of this after I spend like 10k or 100k or whatnot. But it's having the opposite effect when you think about it.
But the thing is, I think one way or another, whether you like it or not, you can't run away from these kind of, I guess, very predatory microtransaction practices that I think is eventually pretty exploitative if you think about it, right? The fact that it's essentially pay to win, but pay to win in a very radical way, I suppose.
It's not like a direct pay to win situation. I mean, if you have a lot of free time, like maybe 10 years, you will get the max out equipment you can get from the game. Like if you want your Diablo fix and you, without all this pay gating and all this nonsense of Elder Rifts and all that, play Path of Exile. And the only things you're paying for Path of Exile is like how shiny your explosions are when you fire a spell, or what wings you get to use, or what color armor you can have for your current armor. I mean, everything is all cosmetic on Path of Exile side.
Yeah, and I think that's by right should be the way to go if you really want to, I guess, charge people money, right? Especially for this free-to-play game, right?
Yeah. In fact, I think developers know they can make more money out of cosmetics, basically. And you basically keep the game alive as long as you have new content and new dungeons for players to explore. So Path of Exile is definitely doing something right. After 30 years of speculation and theories, Yuji Naka of Sonic Team has finally confirmed on the Twitter message that the legendary King of Pop, Michael Jackson, has indeed worked on the music of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 back in 1994. To quote Yuji Naka, "Oh my god, the music for Sonic 3 has changed, even though Sega official uses Michael Jackson's music." After putting out that tweet, he also shared a picture he took while on a helicopter tour of Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch on Twitter. And if you're curious as to which tracks the King of Pop worked on, he composed the Carnival Night Zone tracks, the Ice Cap Zone tracks, and Launch Base Zone tracks in Sonic 3. Because those 3 stages with the music in there has been replaced with the I guess, a new version based on the prototype music for Sonic Origins. So we also have the Sonic Origins collection that came out this month too, which has 4 Sonic games from the Mega Drive and Mega CD era that mattered. The 2D titles, you've got Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic CD, and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, which is technically 2 games, but now they're combined into 1. As it originally should have been lah. So you can play either the classic mode of these games or the anniversary mode. The anniversary mode for these games feature a 16:9 ratio and the elimination of the life system. So let's just say you die by spikes or from an enemy if you have no rings. You just basically start back at the last checkpoint. So if you die 99 times, you still start at that same collection. Because if you play the old versions, you use up all 3 of your lives, you have to start all over again or use a credit. So the new feature is actually kind of useful, especially for those who just are pretty bad at certain areas of the game. To sum it up, if you're planning to go old school Sonic, this is the collection to go. It's definitely the best present for those rare Sonic fans who still think Sonic Adventures 2 and the other 3D Sonic games are good. So it's more like a reality check for them lah. So we have Capcom Fighting Collection, which is out right now. It's a collection of all 10 games from Capcom's past arcade fighting game days in the 90s. There are quite a number of the fighting games here that a lot of people have missed out. So in the collection, we have Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, which is a puzzle versus game. Think Columns or Tetris, but versus mode. And you got Super Gem Fighter Mini Mix, which is basically it's Street Fighter but with chibi characters like big hits, simplified controls, and cute attacks. There's also another game called Cyberbots, which is Mecha Street Fighter. Red Earth, which is an action RPG fighting game, and this is the first few games in the late 90s to use the Capcom's high-tech at the time CPS3 arcade board, and had a password system so you can continue on with your character while you level him or her up. And of course, there's a slew of Darkstalker games, 5 of them in fact. If there's any fault with the Capcom Fighting Collection is because it's basically just a variety. I mean, I love Darkstalkers as much as the next guy, particularly Vampire Savior. But there are extra versions of Vampire Hunter and Vampire Savior that don't really add much variety. Like, you could replace these games with other fighting games from Capcom's stable, especially like maybe the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fighting game that came out back in the day. But still, with the games on tap and the online netplay being very stable at this point of writing, this Capcom Fighting Collection is definitely a piece of history you need to own if you're into fighting games, because I know a lot of people haven't played these games, the older games.
And another one I think that I was sort of like pretty excited about as well is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
Yes, that is a very good game. So this 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up title, Shredder's Revenge, lets you have up to 6 players on screen defeating foot soldiers and all the aliens from Dimension X like in the 80s cartoon show, which basically popularized the 4-character cartoon mascot cartoons that have been around. You know, it's a genre, you know, right? To see this in action when you play it, wow, it feels really, really good. The controls are spot on, perfect. It's really hard to go back to the old games after playing this. It looks great. It's also challenging in a way, but not too overwhelming. If you play it on regular difficulty, you'll be fine. And the difficulty scales up if you have more players on board. So you get more enemies flooding the screen, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, I mean, for a beat 'em up, it has a pretty long runtime of 2.5 hours with 16 stages. If you're a big TMNT fan back in the 80s and 90s, you'll love the nods and throwbacks this title has to offer. If you love arcade games and party-tailored titles, this game is for you too. So yeah, TMNT Shredder's Revenge sets out what it wants to do and delivers a lot on its end. So I basically give it a 9 crank brains out of 10.